When Sauron unleashed his armies during the War of the Ring, Middle-earth stood on the brink of collapse. Orcs poured out of Mordor by the tens of thousands. The Nazgûl swept across the skies, spreading terror wherever they flew. Siege engines crushed ancient walls, and entire kingdoms bent under the weight of a single will. And yet, something was missing. No dragons. This is the same world where Smaug nearly erased a kingdom in a single night. The same Dark Lord who once served Morgoth, master of the greatest dragons Middle-earth ever knew. So, the question isn't simply where the dragons were. It's why Sauron, at the height of his power, never used them at all. Today we're uncovering the real reason dragons never appeared in the War of the Ring, and why their absence says more about Sauron's weakness than his strength. Welcome back to the channel. Let's get started.
Do you now?
The films quietly train us to expect dragons to return. In The Hobbit, Smaug is framed as a walking apocalypse. He doesn't just guard treasure, he reshapes the political balance of the North. His attack destroys Dale, scatters its people, and drives the dwarves into exile for nearly 2 centuries. One dragon succeeds where entire armies once failed. When The Lord of the Rings begins, logic suggests escalation. Sauron's power is greater. His enemies are weaker. Gondor is stretched thin. Rohan is divided. The elves are leaving Middle-earth entirely. And yet, instead of dragons, we see fell beasts. Terrifying, yes, but clearly inferior. No firestorms, no cities reduced to ash from the sky. The films never address this absence. Tolkien does, quietly and far more deliberately. The first misconception to discard is the idea that dragons were ever Sauron's weapons. They were not. Dragons were bred by Morgoth during the First Age, forged as living instruments of ruin. They were designed to break armies, devastate kingdoms, and instill terror on a scale that no orc host ever could. But even then, they were never truly obedient. Glorung, the father of dragons, often acted on his own will. He ignored commands, pursued personal cruelty, and relied as much on deception as brute force. Dragons were intelligent, proud, and dangerously independent. When Morgoth fell, his creatures did not automatically pass to Sauron, and Sauron lacked the authority and raw power to command them as Morgoth once did.
I do not know who else may be watching.
Sauron's strength was never brute domination. It was control. Orcs could be organized into legions. Men could be corrupted slowly through fear, ambition, and promises of power. The Nazgûl were bound completely to Sauron's will through the rings, unable to resist him even in thought. Dragons were different. They were intelligent enough to resist domination, proud enough to reject servitude, and powerful enough to ignore threats. Tolkien makes it clear that dragons possessed immense willpower, often rivaling that of great kings and sorcerers. To unleash a dragon was to gamble. Once airborne, it might burn enemy cities, or simply fly away to hoard treasure and ignore the war entirely. For Sauron, that unpredictability was unacceptable. By the Third Age, dragons were no longer the force they once were. The great fire drakes of the First Age had largely been destroyed in wars against elves, dwarves, and men. Entire bloodlines were wiped out during the long conflicts in the Grey Mountains and the northern regions of Middle-earth. Smaug himself is described as one of the last great dragons, already a relic of an older, darker world. What remained were lesser creatures, cold drakes without wings, smaller fire drakes hiding in remote regions, creatures more interested in survival than conquest. Sauron didn't lack ambition. He lacked dragons worth deploying, and even those that remained were scattered, solitary, and fiercely territorial. If you enjoyed the video so far, don't forget to drop a like. It's tempting to assume Smaug served Sauron in secret, but Tolkien never supports this idea. Smaug knew of Sauron, and Sauron certainly knew of Smaug. Yet there is no alliance, only coincidence. Smaug's destruction of Dale and Erebor weakened the North, which benefited Sauron indirectly, but it was never coordinated. Smaug acted for himself. He ruled the Lonely Mountain for nearly 2 centuries, answering to no master, answering no call. When the War of the Ring began, Smaug was already dead, and Sauron made no attempt to replace him or awaken another dragon. That silence speaks volumes. By then, Sauron's strategy no longer depended on raw destruction. Sauron was not trying to burn Middle-earth to the ground. He was trying to conquer it intact. Dragons are weapons of annihilation. They destroy infrastructure, economies, and land itself. Cities reduced to ash cannot be ruled. They must be rebuilt, repopulated, and controlled. Sauron needed victory quickly, before Gondor and Rohan could fully unite, before the free peoples realized the true scale of the threat. Dragons are slow to deploy, impossible to hide, and impossible to ignore. One dragon in the sky would alert every power in Middle-earth that the final war had begun. Sauron preferred pressure, fear, and inevitability, not spectacle. There is another danger dragons bring, one Sauron feared deeply. Heroes. Dragons create legends. Every dragon slain becomes a story that inspires resistance. Bard of Dale, Turin Turambar, Arendil the Mariner. Dragon slayers reshape history. If Sauron unleashed dragons, he risked creating new champions, figures who could rally fractured peoples into unified resistance. A dragon over Gondor would not just burn stone, it would awaken hope, and hope was the one thing Sauron could never truly control. The fell beasts ridden by the Nazgûl were not dragons, but they served a similar psychological purpose. They ruled the skies, they spread terror, they broke morale before swords ever clashed. But unlike dragons, they were completely obedient. They were bound to the Nazgûl, who were bound to Sauron. They required no negotiation, no reward, no respect. If one fell, another could replace it. Dragons were irreplaceable, proud, and dangerous. Fell beasts were tools, and Sauron preferred tools he could control absolutely. At the deepest level, dragons symbolized an older kind of evil. Morgoth was destruction incarnate. He reshaped continents, shattered mountains, and scarred the world itself. Dragons were perfect for that age, raw, chaotic, catastrophic. Sauron was different. He wanted order, systems, hierarchies. A world that functioned under his rule, not one reduced to ash. The War of the Ring was smaller in scale than the wars of the First Age, but far more final in consequence. If Sauron won, Middle-earth would not burn. It would become silent, and dragons had no place in that future. Sauron never used dragons because they no longer fit the kind of war he was fighting. They were weapons of an older age, too proud, too uncontrollable, and too destructive for a Dark Lord who ruled through fear and order. By the War of the Ring, dragons were fading, and domination had replaced devastation. The Age of Fire had ended, and the Age of Domination had begun. If you like this kind of video, join the channel and leave a like for more content like this. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next one.